April will be joining us in a few.
Kevin, did you want to wait for April or did you want the chief to go forward?
We should probably wait.
Okay.
It was my fault. She's making changes for me at the last minute. Reminding you about this up the street. We're going to take that.
Yes. Yeah, that's good.
Second date. Oh, yeah, yeah, he surprised me with that.
Open to go tomorrow.
Me too.
Been in like 4 meetings with him over the last couple of days. And,
There's so much going on, and then, you know, he had planned on retiring.
Well, that's
And
what,
then the new guy was on the meeting yesterday.
that's what I had yesterday.
Okay.
That guy's really knowledgeable. Well, I'm sure they both are, but he can tell you who's getting what doses, what medications. Yeah, it's very.
we'll remind you that we're live right now.
Seems like his military background will help with marshaling the forces for this whole vaccine distribution thing.
Karen, has anybody joined us on YouTube that you're aware of?
Just 1 second. No comments yet, but there's 1 person viewing. I'd have to log in to tell you who it is.
That's right.
My mom.
You have a big following.
At this point, we are waiting for some additional data that the auditor is taking care of.
Had your first Christmas tree fire yet?
Gosh, no, not, I hope we don't.
They're already going up.
I know, these fires up.
Those are like gasoline. We used to put a video on every year. We had a house down there by AT&T building we were using for a while. And we lit a Christmas tree out in the living room there. We had a video of it, how fast it's gone.
Wow.
We've been using fig trees for years. My wife doesn't like it. I said, I don't care.
My poor wife, she don't get a real tree. Candles are getting blown out all the time.
Yeah.
I did hear of a story some years back, a person with a live tree, fairly large, and decided to burn it in the fireplace.
Just
And they
happened
thought they could just feed it into the fireplace and burn it that way. As you can imagine, the results weren't very good.
No, it couldn't have been good on the chimney either, all that creosote.
Previous line, yeah.
Not much went up to the chimney.
I have to say, I remember 20 years back now, though, I remember a fire, one of our typical split levels. They, the family had a tree in the living room, and the whole living room was filled with Christmas presents, and they hadn't opened yet, and had a fire. It was just devastating.
No,
It was, yeah, talk about a real downer for kids.
That was LED lights versus violence or bulbs.
yeah.
Probably gotten better to some extent. 'Cause those things used to run so high, you couldn't touch them.
We don't have them like we did. I was amazed, though. I was back about 4 or 5 years ago, I was in New York City around Christmas time, and I could not believe the number of people dragging fresh trees up in all those high-rise apartment buildings. And all I kept thinking is, oh my God, this is horrible.
Oh.
You would think that they would mandate that they gotta have, but they're selling them on every corner there.
Well,
I know my son's apartment building, live trees are illegal.
Yeah,
I think the building is 14 stories. I'm not sure about that.
that'd be a wise move. They actually have, we had one, we probably still have it over in the museum. They used to make Christmas ornaments. I don't know if they still do. And they were fire suppression Christmas ornaments. They
I've
look like a
seen those.
Christmas ornament, and then when they heat up, they explode and it's all dry powder, get them all over the tree to put it out.
very cool.
I haven't seen one of those in years though.
Yeah, it's been forever. I've never seen it.
used.
My wife already has 14 trees.
What's that?
Probably because of the chemical that they used.
You're probably right, yes.
Did you start decorating yet, Dennis?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my wife has 14 trees up already, fully decorated.
What? Your house isn't that big, is it?
It's
Big
about
enough to have
1,800
14
square
trees.
feet, but no, we have it's a forest.
Bill slipping through.
It's Christmas wonderland.
They're full-size trees.
You got the little.
Well, there's some, they're anywhere from 7 footers to 5 footers.
I hope you don't have a dog.
We have 3 of them.
Oh, geez.
Do you have cats? Do you have cats, Dennis?
Each one is a theme. There's peanuts. You've seen your daughters have been seen. There's peanuts. There's Wizard of Oz. There's Grinch. Military.
Hey,
My son-in-law, who's in the army, you probably met him. They have a competition.
Justin wants to get the bucket truck over. I'll try to get there. I don't know.
I can see it out there.
That's if he wants to bring the bucket truck over. It's like.
Yeah.
But Justin, I'll try. I don't know what.
How I told you that. Really? You would get up on a roof.
Finance Committee meeting of November 19th, 2020 is called to order. Will everyone please rise for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Attendance today is full committee, Councilman Gillespie, Councilman, along with President of Council, Martin DeVries, Council at Large, Michelle Hung, Holly Swank, and Cliff Winkle, along with the Safety Service Director, Mr. Harvester, the Mayor, Mr. Corcoran, Ms. Auditor, April Wilkinson, and Tara P. Here today in front of council is Chief Reese, and Chief, I'll let you introduce your compatriots.
Okay, I got 2 assistant fire chiefs here with me, Mike Unick, who's the fire marshal for the city, and Assistant Chief John Graff, that's training officer and helps with operations of the fire department.
And also, I'd like to thank the chief for his time, along with his assistants. And one thing I will say too, I do appreciate your reports. Very informative, very interesting. thank you, because I know that comes out of your budget when you do those things, and thank you very much for the detail. I appreciate it. At this point, I will let you start summarizing, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, so usually I give you your full color page pamphlet with the history of the fire department back in the 19, whatever. This year was a little sportier. We were actually changing numbers at the last minute even, so I don't have that for you this year. I apologize. But I'll try to keep going along and waiting for you guys if you have any questions as we go. We always start with fire general, and I think this year especially, this is probably the most important one. As I go through and look at the sheets I have right now, and I'm guessing the sheets you have, I try to stay within what we were asked to stay within with the 2019. I think we're there, or about there, fire general. If I had to go through and point out something that went up, let me look real quick. I increase. Turnout gear went up a little bit. Turnout gear is a tough one. We buy our turnout gear. We have to replace our turnout gear. We're on a rotation schedule, is the way it works. So we're trying to follow NFPA and keep up with cancer initiative. They signed a bill into law 2 years ago about certain types of cancers affecting firefighters, and BWC was going to cover it. In return, they have us jump through hoops doing stuff that we never did before, keeping 2 sets of gear for everybody, cleaning everything, you know, stripping guys down. They would like to strip guys down to their underwear more or less on scene of a fire, bring the gear back dirty, bag it, off gas. I mean, it just keeps going on and on. So the gear prices though, the gear prices have gone up 11% in 2 years. I did write a letter to our gear supplier complaining. I was griping, like, how do you raise this 11% in 2 years? Of course, they blame their suppliers for the material that they use, you know, Nomex. So I don't think there's anything I can do about it other than just keep griping, but I do keep a close eye on it. It was 6% first, no, 5% the first year, 6% the second. Our cost just, and fire general just went up a little bit. Let's go down a little more here. I know there's one I wanted to talk about. Okay, so somewhere in here, I have to look for it, and maybe we'll find it later. But one of the other price increases or costs that I had that went up is I had maintenance agreements on everything. We have an HVAC unit at Fire Station 1 now that we have a maintenance agreement for. It's kind of pricey. I think it's in the $5,000 range. They have to come service that 2 times a year. They have to come and change the filters in it, clean it all out, make sure it's all running right. It's all computerized. I don't think it's anything that any of our employees can do. But we did have a problem this year. We ended up having them in more because for some reason, the unit was getting clogged up with like crazy looking silt or something, the filters on it. And they came out and they cleaned it unexpectedly. It just quits working. They quit working on us. It's doing what it's supposed to do though. So they came out to clean it, and we were trying to figure out where is all this debris coming from? How's this sucking all this in? And then I started looking around at the other buildings in the school right there, the academic center, and all these. And we started thinking maybe we should start talking to them about, maybe it's the construction on Ranger Way, maybe it's the construction on Center Ridge, maybe it's the service garage, I don't know what. Well, it turns out within 2 days of that coming up, first thing in the morning I'm coming in, they got a fire on the roof at the academic center, and it's in their unit, same thing. So what we're finding is it was that road construction, hopefully, but we got to do the maintenance, because if we don't want to have a fire in that unit. We'll lose a lot of money on that unit. It's an expensive unit.
So it's the construction chief on Ranger Way or Center Ridge?
I think it's Ranger Way. I think it's Ranger Way. I'm hoping.
So have we then looked at the units for the service department just to make sure they're okay before they?
Their units are different than ours. I think the ones that we're most concerned about are the school, which we've already looked at. And we probably should get up by Aldi's and take a look, make sure theirs is okay, but I think we're okay.
Thank you.
All right. Right.
Chief, the maintenance and service agreements are under maintenance and service agreements 400,031.
Okay, thank you.
That you'll see that there's an increase there. In 2019, it was about $800. This year, it's $18,050. Those are his additional agreements.
And I can tell you what all those are if you like. I believe the big thing with those two is it's more than just a couple of things. It's
Well, the chief's looking, recognizing this problem is gonna be in the next 5 years because we're moving dirt over there out of that dirt pile all the time.
yeah,
So we're gonna have this issue until that dirt pile's gone over there at the service garage, which it's hundreds of thousands of yards of dirt. That's just a guess. I don't even know if it's that much or it's more or less, but we made a little bit of a dent in it, but there's constant dirt because of the service garage always in the air over there. It's not just the construction.
Is there a secondary set of filters you can put on the units before it gets to the unit?
I asked them that. It's what it's getting into is the condenser. The condenser is going to be wide open.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it'll be okay though. We're keeping a sharp eye on it now. And quite honestly, we can solve some of it. We just keep an eye on it and get up there and hose it down once in a while.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that'll take care of it.
Hopefully you'll find a hose.
Take my place.
So our maintenance service agreements, I have breathing air systems. We have a $50,000 breathing air unit that fills our SCBA bottles. We got that on a grant. We didn't pay for it years back. When we moved, I actually had the cabinet refinished on it. I'm trying to get as many years out of that thing as I can. That's obviously something we can't maintenance. It has to be done by them. And it has to be certified for NFPA. So, and PWC. So we actually pay for that. Our turnout gear washers and dryers, we have one at each station. We were going to enter a maintenance agreement with that. I really don't like the price on it. So I'm going to see if I can't avoid that and do it ourselves. I just got the instructions about it the other day. I'm thinking what they actually quoted me was twice what I budgeted for it. And I was like, there's no way. So I think we're going to do it. And that if we find any problems that are beyond our capabilities, then we'll call them and take care of it. From Fire Station 1 plumbing maintenance agreement. When I first entered into that, I thought I was like, I'm going to try it out and see if it's silly. I'm thinking maybe it could be something that I don't need. Turns out we do. They came in, they solved the problem with the hot water heater that would have cost us $5,000 if the hot water heater would have went. It was brand new. It was a brand new hot water heater. It was done during construction. We had a problem with the pressure reducer was too small. So they go over everything within the plumbing system. I think it's worthwhile. I think in the long run, it'll end up saving us. The elevator, obviously, we didn't want it, but we have it. And we got to take care of it. Air compressor maintenance. We have an air compressor at Station 1. It's all electronic. Things does an unbelievable job. They come in and they actually service that every year for us, do the oil change on it, hydraulic fluid, all that. Generator maintenance agreement at both stations. That's a funny one. So twice a year they come out to every generator we have in the city and we maintenance those. It would really, I believe, I gave the mayor something the other day from Cummins. We're all on different generator contracts. I think it would be much better for us if we did it all at once, all together. We just got to agree on it because there's two different companies and we bought generators from both companies over the years. But one company could service all the generators. I'd love to see that happen. That might help bring that cost down a little bit, but that's one of the maintenance agreements I have. Fire Station 1, the HVAC maintenance agreement. That's what I was talking about with the condenser clogging up. They also come, they check every one of the tube heaters in the apparatus bays. They go through and inspect all those. They do pressure tests for gas on those. So that's actually worthwhile. And the last thing I have that I actually, for a maintenance agreement that I actually think is a deal is the maintenance agreement on our new ladder truck. They come out certified, recertified every year, do everything on that truck. We never had that with the old truck, and maybe that's some of the reason we had some of the maintenance problems we did have with that truck. So I think that's money well spent. So that's how I get to that price, and that's where it all came from. I think we did not most of it, but we did some of this stuff. It wasn't grouped together in the right line or something. I was getting it from somewhere else, but we were already doing the elevator. We were already doing I just grouped it together better with April this year than it had been in the past. So it makes sense now.
Thank you.
All right. The equipment outlay. So we had to buy some equipment. What we did in our operation is we changed it, again, trying to save in the long run. The ladder truck that we had that we just traded in, I had always felt that truck should have been here 20 years. We should have had 20 years out of it. And then talking to the sales reps and the guys that come out to do maintenance on those vehicles, they have a pretty strong opinion amongst them that the cities that run the hell out of them, that run them on everything, food on the stove in the kitchen, burn it is not a call that you need an aerial ladder. And when you're running on every one of those kinds of calls, it's having wear and tear on it, especially in North Ridgeville, where we're back and forth across the railroad tracks nonstop. That, among other things, I think caused the demise that we had with the ladder truck that we did have that we traded in. So our thought this time around is we want to get 20 years out of this truck. They're way expensive and they keep going up ridiculous. So the idea is there is a company every day, one of the 3-man companies, Fire Station 1, they have an engine and they have the ladder. And the captain chooses based on the call that's coming in, whether he takes that ladder truck or not. So it's going to sit more, it gets exercise, but it's not going to be running emergency lights and sirens. I don't have to worry about killing a family of 4 in a car accident with a ladder truck that can't stop on a call that it shouldn't even be running on. It's a necessary evil. We got to have that truck for ISO, but I don't think we need to be running it down the road all the time. The tires on it alone are $10,000 to replace them. So that's what we did. And in doing that, though, we had to buy more equipment for that truck because at any time that truck can go out. What we used to do in the past is our spare vehicle, which this kind of is, we'd rob equipment off of one to the other if we were switching them out. Well, we can't do that in the middle of getting a call. So that's why I'm trying to piecemeal and get the equipment on that truck. I had a lot of stuff around. We found every piece we could to put on it that we already had, but there were some items that we had to get. And that's at $17,750. I don't know if these numbers are actually accurate now. I think they are. But you're seeing it at the bottom. I think we're within what 2019 was as far as equipment costs and everything. Obviously, the bottom number is going to go up a little bit because of wages. Benefits, well, wage increase 2.5% last year. So, is there any questions about fire?
Just to confirm, he did move one employee to the paramedic levy out of general?
That is true.
Correct. Thank you. And also to confirm the membership costs for patients were also moved to a different fund, correct? 101, 165, 130100.
Yes, that's.
I went to paramedic.
Thank you.
That was paramedical.
Thank you.
A portion.
So, when we started to fire levy, I probably should say in 2020, we started collecting the funds from the SAFER grant. I think we got $64,000 from SAFER. Or, well, we haven't gotten it yet, have we?
No,
We're supposed to get $64,000 from SAFER. We were awarded the money, so I'm sure it's coming. We added 3 paramedics with the increase. So there was an increase in revenue in the paramedic fund. We added 3 paramedics and 3 officers. But we ended up getting that grant. So one of those three was sort of taken care of to give us extra in paramedic levy over. The other thing we got was an air pack grant for SCBA's for the air packs our guys wear. They were at end of life. We got FEMA to replace those for us. That was over 150,000, I believe. I don't have the exact number with me. And then we got an Ohio EMS grant. So we got we're a little over 200,000, I believe, for the year. So that should help out a little bit. Fire levy. Not sure much changed in fire levy. A little bit of increase in uniforms. Electronic media subscriptions got moved over from fire general. Some of our technology's changed and gotten better. So some of the cost has gone up with it. We always had some of that. I can't tell you exactly how much. I could look right now if you wanted me to tell you what the difference was, but it did go up a little bit. That's it. So it gets us down to 57.9. There is an increase of about $54,000 on the bottom line again. I'm assuming that's going to be due to wage increases.
Are you at your fire levy?
Fire levy.
Yeah, fire levy is basically all wages. There's 12 staff being paid out of fire levy.
Fire pension. Thing, there's not much, I don't have much to do with fire pension. Most of that takes care of retirement, I believe. It always has.
Chief, how many firemen do you have retired this year?
I didn't have any in 2020, believe it or not. 2021, I had a guy leaving in February.
Thank you.
FEMA Safer Grant, that's the grant we were talking about. It pays one firefighter. Believe it or not, his name's Grant. Paramedic levy. Right off the bat, if you look at the wages of paramedic levy, they went up significantly between the 2 years, which brings that line up at the bottom for the total. But we did move some stuff to paramedic levy and some stuff went up in paramedic levy. Most notably, membership fees and education. We moved that over there. A little trying to cut it. And the reason was is because these are the items that it covers. Fire instructor, sending 3 officers to fire instructor school. So ISO, when they come, and they're coming this year, the insurance services office that rates our city's fire department for the insurance companies. One of the things they want to see, and one of the things that we get points for, we get DAC for, is whether or not our fire officers are instructors. We have 3 that aren't. They were the 3 that were hired last year. So the plan is to hopefully send them through. In an effort to try saving a little on that. Is it fire instructor or inspector that we're pulling, John, in our station? Inspector. Okay. All right. So never mind that. The next one is we send 3 guys to arson seminar every year. Some years actually they go, some years they don't. Like last year they didn't go because of the COVID, obviously. But the arson seminar is just, it's more education for them. They got to have so many hours of continuing education a year to be able to, give a cause of determination for us. Fire officer 1 and 2 are both in there. They're 2 separate classes. We have to send all of our lieutenants, middle managers to fire officer training. That's again, another ISO thing if we don't do it, and it's NFPA. Training prop materials, luckily for me, most of our stuff is built in-house. I didn't invite any up to see right now. We have a training prop that just got built that simulate. We try to put the guys in a situation where they're in trouble, that it's going to panic them, it's going to shake them up. Assistant Chief Graff is just finishing building one right now where they basically drop through a door. They're crawling along blindfolded and without knowing it, all of a sudden they drop it onto a mattress below. It's to simulate going through a floor, which happens often. It's one of the biggest ways our people are going to get killed. And it's so that they can get their bearings, calm down while they're breathing under air and try to figure out, okay, now how do I get out of this? So we spent a little bit of money building that stuff. We do that in-house, most of it. fire inspector certification. We have 5 officers that need to have that. Again, they're all supposed to have it. They're supposed to be able to walk into any business. If there's a fire or something going on, and be able to recognize this isn't right, this is code, and be able to give an explanation to the property owners. Again, that's by ISO. And in order to try saving a little bit of money on that, because we knew we had 5 guys that had to go through it, we're going to host that so that we don't have to send anybody out of our building, which saves us money. So we're hosting that, and other cities will send people in to come and take it in our building. 3 of the classes that we have, and the price on them it's small. It's all of them together is $1,000 for 3 classes that we send 2 guys to. One of them being the fire marshal. One is fire protection training, one is fire alarm training, and one is demolition training. They're self-explanatory. We send them to the Ohio Fire Academy because it's the cheapest place to send them for it. Again, it's not only continuing education, but it's something they need for what's going on around here. You know, we're tearing buildings down, we're putting buildings up, we're, you know, all that stuff. So, and we got a lot more fire protection systems now in place than we ever had, because as old businesses move out and new ones move in, Cliff knows this, we're getting more and more fire alarm systems. So that's what that covers. That's why that was important to me. That's why the mayor briefly moved that for me.
Chief, is there any additional training that you would like to see that you didn't include in your budget? That, again, I believe all of this training is outstanding. You need to have it. I would want you to have all the training, appropriate training that we could afford to make sure that you get for you and your team. So is there any that's coming up that you would like to include in the budget or like to consider later?
No, I appreciate that. We're fortunate. I think you got to remember having John there all the time. Besides doing this training, we're doing training with all 3 shifts all the time, different stuff. Every year they have stuff they have to run through. And then as we get new people, they got a book this thick. They got to run through and be able to do everything in that book before we'll even consider keeping them. We do a lot of training, and we get a lot from the hospitals too, which thankfully that part of it, most of it is free. This last year's kind of killed us though, because we're behind. You know, they gave you, they took away a whole year of training, but they gave you 3 months to make it up because of the COVID. It's kind of crazy.
So I was going to make sure that you have what you need.
No, we do. And the mayor made sure of that, and I'm happy about that. That was vitally important to me.
Thank you. And thank you, John.
All right. Physical exams, we're supposed to do annual physical exams. I think I told you this before. We're supposed to do annual physical exams by NFPA. It would be a full-time job for me to chase down 40 people to send them for an annual exam. I send them for biannuals, so they go every other year. They get a physical when they come in, obviously, to make sure they're healthy enough to do the job. What I do, the way I shortcut that biannual exam is, they have to go have a breathing test, which instead of $500 and some dollars, actually instead of $708 for the physical, I end up spending $25. And what it is they fill out if they don't get a physical that year, they fill out a questionnaire for OSHA that says, I'm not afraid of small spaces. I'm not having any trouble breathing right now when I walk steps. It's, about a 5 or 6 page questionnaire. And then the city doctor takes a look at that. That's the $25 cost. And if he determines that there's a guy that he's not happy with wearing a SCBA for the year, he'll bring him in, do an exam on him just to make sure. Usually it's maybe one or two that he has to haul in. But that's a savings for us to be able to do it that way. The other thing that comes out of physical exams is drug testing. We have so many random drug tests we're supposed to be doing a year. And then we drug test anytime we have an accident or an incident that we think we go ahead, we drug test whoever it is that was involved. We have a return to work physical, which actually the SSD helped develop, and other cities are actually coming here, but we're getting blamed for it. It's called the Ridgeville test now from the other fire departments. They're blaming me, not because they don't know about him. But what used to happen is we used to get a doctor's excuse from a doctor And it would say, guy's ready to come back to work. He broke his neck 2 weeks ago and he's ready to come back to work. And Dr. McGillicuddy would sign off on it for him.
I know that's what you're
Now, they have to go to the city doctor and he examines them and then he decides, he actually puts them through a fitness test where they got to do some of the actions that they would have to do at work.
Yep.
It's not incredibly hard, but it's incredibly fair. We've had more than one candidate not be able to make it. Matter of fact, we have 2 people that don't work for us any longer because they couldn't make it through that. Whereas they both came back with slips that said, I'm ready to work as a firefighter, and they weren't. So that's of huge importance to us. That was very wise for us to put that in place, and it's worked out. The other thing that helps is when an employee comes and he went to Dr. Summers off and he can't come back for 3 weeks because he sprained his ankle. Now we can send in our city physician. He takes a look at him and says, nah, I think he's okay. He can go back to work, or he's good for light duty. So that helps out a lot. Other things out of physical exams, I'm trying to think. I think that takes it all. Yeah, I think that's it. Return to work physicals. The guys that are on the tech rescue and hazmat teams, they gotta have a physical, but our biannual covers that, so that helps out. So that's those costs. My office supply costs were crazy over the years. It went down significantly, and they weren't crazy. I wasn't spending them. I was just asking for them because all I ever heard, I had an internal deal where all I kept hearing is we didn't have enough money for office supplies, but I had it over here and I wasn't letting them see it over here. So I kept thinking I didn't have enough money. It was a snafu. We got it. Operating supplies. In paramedic, I think that is probably all of our medical stuff, durable medical goods that we buy. You would think that went up with this year, but we got a lot of stuff from Lorraine County EMA, which came in through the state. I think everybody learned a valuable lesson because, quite frankly, we still don't have the supplies we need. You know, they think we do, they say we do, but I send masks out to Patel now. The best masks we have, if you ever see the guys wear them, are these green masks. They're medical masks, and they're good for fluid hitting you in the face at certain velocity. So those are the best masks we have, but 3M can't make them fast enough. You can't get them. So we send them out to Patel. We've been sending them out to them. And what ends up happening is the guys get the masks and they have to keep reusing them. We don't have enough for you to throw one out, take one, throw one out, take one. So they wear them until they're dirty, or, you know, they can't wear them anymore. So what ends up happening is they'll write their name on them with a magic marker, permanent marker, and then they put them in a paper lunch bag. Well, then we're sending them out to Patel and they clean them for free for us, which is great. And they get them back to us like within 2 days. But all they do is they hang them on a rack and they spray them with a solution and they let them dry. So then when they come back, I get a box of them back. Like I might be putting one on that says Boots, and I'm thinking, man, do I really want to put on that?
I agree.
It's kind of sketchy, but we're doing it because we got to do it. But as far as operating supplies go, it's mostly medical stuff. We're doing pretty good with the inventory on that, so I think we're okay.
Is there, Mayor, is there anything with the CARES Act money that we can make sure that, you know, again, if it's an issue of the suppliers can't make them,
That's what
can't get them to us, that's one thing, but other than that, we're good with the CARES Act money getting you whatever you need.
Yes, we've been doing fine with that. Yep, perfect. No problems with that. That's actually been good. Turnout gear was the next one. I have, you know, so many guys in paramedic, they gotta get turnout gear. That's paid for out of paramedic. Let's see what else we got going here. Equipment service plans. I believe in this instance. So one of them I pay out of ambulance and one I pay out of paramedic. So, and when I say one of them, what I mean is I have, I believe I have 5 AEDs within the department. They're on fire trucks mostly, some of them are on command vehicles. One of them is in the senior center that I maintain and take care of for them. Those have to be maintained every year, they gotta be calibrated every year, inspected, and if they need a battery, this maintenance agreement gives me a battery, which they're really expensive batteries, so that's why we do that with them. The other ones are our life packs, you guys know about those are the monitor defibrillators that we use, they've gone so far, they're so high tech. But thankfully, we got those from, mostly we got those from the hospitals. The hospitals seem to do any upgrades we need for the ROTMs on them, that kind of thing. So, but those have to be inspected every year too. Now, on the other end, and I think that must be, maybe on an ambulance, I have to look at my schedule here. But the other end, we have the automated cots. Those have been a heaven sent. I've not had a back injury that I know of because of a guy lifting a patient, with a cot since we got those. That solved the problem. But unfortunately, those have to be maintained every year. And so do the lifting units that lift them in. And then we also have stair chairs that have to be maintained. And what those are is it's a folding chair with wheels and tracks on it. We can put somebody on it, wheel them up the stairs, wheel them downstairs. That sort of, it's a people mover is what it is. So those are the two big costs I always have in paramedic and ambulance with operating supplies. Or equipment service plans. I'm sorry, equipment service plans, my bad. All right. Down the line, under treasurer fees, we got IT licenses and support. That went up a little bit. I'm not exactly sure why. It's probably because of we're using more Connet Online, and we're going to do that probably in the year to come because of the COVID. That's one thing they did do for us for our paramedic licensure stuff. You guys got to have so many hours a year. It was hard to get educators to come out, sit in a room with a bunch of guys that are running on COVID patients. So they're allowing us to do more of the education online or accepted more online education than they had before.
Speaking of that, Chief, do you have all of the necessary IT equipment, cameras on your screens and such to do Zoom meetings or any kind of video conference meetings that you need to have?
Yes. Yes, and we had a subscription for, I forget what it's called, but it wasn't the Zoom, it was the other one, whatever it was. We were using that in the classroom.
Microsoft.
We're gonna switch to the Zoom now because it seems to work better. Quite honestly, I think it's probably less expensive. But yeah, we're set on that. I mean, I don't have any.
Both stations?
Yes, I don't have any people needs right now. I don't have any vehicle needs right now, and I'm not gonna because you've funded all that over the other years. It's thankfully done because I don't like you buying that stuff. It's kind of a pain. We're over from what we were in 19 with that. Keep in mind also though, that the paramedic levy was increased. There was a substantial increase when we renewed it and increased it. So I'm not sure if that makes any difference to you or not. In fact, though, that it can only be spent for what we're spending it for. Ambulance, our ambulance billing should be up. I haven't seen the revenue for it this year. I haven't really looked at it, but it's got to be going up because the 5 fire departments that are in dispatch with us in West Shore Dispatch, 4 of them are going down in the number of calls, and one of them is going to be over 100 more from last year, and that's us. The only thing I can say to explain that is we probably should be down with everybody else, and that's because so many people are afraid to go to the hospital now. But the reason we're up is just construction. It's got to be the increase in population. There's no other explanation for it. It has to be. So our billing should be healthy, hopefully.
Excuse me, Chief?
Yep.
Could the 2 assisted living facilities answer anything?
Absolutely. They could add it to it. But what's funny is they both slowly filled this year. They're not even near where they would have been if the COVID hadn't hit. Nobody wanted to put their loved one in a nursing home in the middle of this, which is understandable. But in talking to the folks at the Danbury, what ended up happening was everybody was keeping them at home and having a hard time taking care of them. And then they realized, they're like, wow, this isn't going away. It's not going anywhere. So all of a sudden they got hit. They started moving people in there. So I think into next year, you're gonna see them start filling up even more and more. So yeah, it is gonna have an effect for sure. It probably has, you're right. I definitely see calls, I see every call on my phone. And I see calls, especially to the Danbury. I don't know where the avenue is at yet, but there's a lot of beds in the avenue. So it'll go up for sure. And those are okay for us because everybody in there is on Medicaid or Medicare. So we get paid on those bills all the time.
Good.
Going down through ambulance. If there's anything that stands out, operating supplies, that's where my increase in operating supplies came. So, and some of that I'm gonna have to ask April on this. So if we spend it out of there, it comes out of our ambulance or paramedic fund first, and then it gets reimbursed with CARES Act, is that correct? If we spend something, if we buy, say, masks, we buy it right out of ambulance line or paramedic line, but then it gets reimbursed back
Well,
after we purchase it.
for 2020, yes,
Okay.
but not moving forward. You had to have your funds encumbered or expended by November 20th. So where you have purchased masks this year, we did reimburse. We moved the expense from whichever fund you bought it from into the CARES Act funding.
Okay, and so we don't have any money coming that we know of as of yet for 2020. For CARES Act or anything else.
21.
21, I'm sorry. Yeah, I gotta imagine that's gonna change because it seems like it's gonna go longer into the year than they originally thought. So we'll see. I mean, if it doesn't, we'll be okay. And in all honesty, if it's 20,000 and we get a bunch of CARES Act money and we spend 10,000, it goes right back into paramedic anyway. It'll be there. It can't go anywhere else.
Again, just to confirm, one of the employees was moved to the paramedic fund, correct?
I have a correction from earlier. One employee was moved from the general fund into the ambulance fund. There was no additional staff added to paramedic levy.
Okay.
The increase in staff was the shuffling. When we talked about that last week, when we got the renewal funds in, we shifted staff around so that it made sense for the funding.
Thank you.
All right, turnout gear. So again, increase in turnout gear on this. It could be just a matter of those guys didn't need turnout. I had one guy last year that needed it, and I have two this year. I don't know what the increase there is. I'm guessing that's what it is. That service plan, again, that's either, like I said, the life packs or the COTS. And as we go down further, insurance, contract billing. You guys see contract billing went up, I believe? Yeah. So contract billing went up, but that's because it's directly related to our calls going up. They get a percentage of everything we get. That's how we pay them. Central dispatch, about the same, damn near. They will stay the same.
Just a question on central dispatch. Is the budget lower than the 2020 budget because we saw what the usage actually was?
I believe so, yes.
So we brought it down because of that, or was there some other issue?
No, I think that's why, right?
Thank you.
Any other questions on the ambulance? We just replaced an ambulance, so thankfully I won't have to do that for a year or two. We sold one of our old ones off, I think, yeah, we got $5,000 for it, so I'm gonna deals. So we're at our 4 and they're all, I thought, one that I thought was like one of the newer ambulances, I'm thinking, oh, that ambulance is new, it's got 97,000 miles on it. I can't believe it, miles. So, but our replacement plan's good, we're fortunate in that. Any questions on any of that?
Chief?
Yeah.
In capital projects, we have budgeted $160,000 for Fire Station 2. Would you like to talk about Fire Station 2 renovations?
Yeah, so do you remember the number I gave you in the email? Wasn't it 320? Yeah, So anyway, what ended up happening, and I was just talking to Councilman Winkle about this. We got into trying to get the construction done for Station 2, and like everybody else, that got botched by COVID. Once we started doing core testing and on the side of the building where the one part of the renovation is, and addition's going, they found we had soil sample issues, we had some water drainage issues. They had to accommodate for that by doing, there's gonna have to be some soil stabilization over there. Then the cost of construction went up. So the architects, I think, are ultimately conservative in their numbers when they're trying to tell you what they feel it's gonna cost before you bid it. And we were trying to gauge when a good time to bid was, and I'll tell you what, it was like trying to gauge when to get in and out of the stock market. It's impossible. So I had heard lumber went up 35%. We didn't have much lumber involved. Clifford just said that his costs, he saw them going up 20%. We also had an issue with our IT stuff. The way we were trying to do our IT stuff, we didn't feel it was gonna work. Our cable company actually suggested we do it all in one place, just like we did at the current fire station, move everything there, one central location. So that brought up cost a little bit. I think they were talking about a cost overrun of 320, but half of that was a contingency fund that the architects try to keep 10% contingency overall, so that in case they're doing the soil and they find king tut, when they're digging a hole, they have money to fix it. It's, the easiest way I can explain it. It's basically, it's for architect mistakes, in my opinion, and stuff that was missed that happens accidentally. We have a lot of control over that. Basically, it's change orders. So unless they're vital, in my opinion, I don't, unless something catastrophic happened that we weren't planning on, I don't see us getting into that money as much. The 160 is probably reasonable. I just think we really need to be careful when we still got to try to figure out when to bid it. I think
at this point, it's like throwing, close your eyes and throw a dart at a dartboard, but I think it's better now than it would have, than it was, but it could get worse, so.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not exactly the same, but we just had the bids for the water line that Dan mentioned the other day, and it came in, close to $300,000 less than what we were expecting, so.
I think it might be a little dip right now, just maybe now is,
Yeah.
For next year, but.
Some of it depends on what kind of work you're talking about. It was cheap, it was $320,000.
Yeah. So, I'm willing to take a stab at it with half of that and work at it. I mean, why not? I'm not scared.
Do we have a timetable now as to when we anticipate beginning all of this?
I kind of was waiting to hear from you. I mean, I'm just trying to figure it out. I want to do it as efficiently as we can. I feel that there's a lot of excitement amongst contractors. I've gotten lots and lots of calls from contractors wanting to bid on it, which is a good sign. The more bids, the better. I think maybe the station we built and moved into last year is in Firehouse Magazine this year. I think I might have sent it out to everybody. It got a notable, so I went into a national trade magazine, pictures of it. So I think that, and I love that magazine because if you saw what we paid per square foot compared to everyone else, we got a deal. But I think that brought a lot of excitement in the area about this project maybe too. Like, look, they can actually get it done, so they're gonna do it. I'm hoping that helps bring contractors in. And I truly believe like our architects are out of the Columbus area. The first time we were bidding Station 1, myself and Assistant Chief Beeman at the time kept telling them that their numbers were way high. And we told them that this is Cleveland, it's not Columbus. We're not building like you are there. And they went back down off of it. And sure enough, all our bids were way lower than what they had anticipated. Their concern now is they're just doing a station in Ashland. And the one in Ashland came in, it was like a pole barn basically, and it came in per square foot what ours did.
Wow.
So that really set the alarm whistles off for them. I don't want to act like I know their job or anything, but I do think we'll come in under what they're saying.
We get a lot of input on the last station where we were able to kind of make it more efficient with what was being built and save money that way. And it was, I think it's a job well done, because they saved money at the bottom line.
We're trying to do the same at this station. We're trying to use as much concrete floors, that kind of thing as we can. I don't know if there's COVID money out there for it. Well, there isn't anymore, but maybe in the future, I don't know. Do we wait for that even? Because it is gonna separate living quarters more for the people working down there. It's gonna separate them more in the dorm areas and the living areas. But
Yeah, we'd have to wait for, a second round because the round right now, to my understanding, had to be spent by the end of the year.
Yeah,
That's not gonna happen.
And I think because we had it on the books already, that sort of got us out of it too. But I'm willing to do whatever you want to do with it, quite honestly.
I'm like you, I believe it needs to be done, and so I would be in favor of, again, the administration is the one that kind of leads this, but as soon as they believe it, appropriate to move forward on it, I'm all for it. Especially now, as Mr. Winkle indicated, that right now, we're a little bit of a dip of where contractors are bidding. Now might be the time versus, waiting until later, but I'll leave that up to the experts. But it needs to be done, work needs to be done, and I'm all in favor of it. I have no issue with the increase in the budget.
I appreciate that. Is there any other questions about the fire station? I think we're in good graces with the neighbors next door to us over there. We talked with them and they understand everything that's going on, and I think we're all good. Yeah, we want to be good neighbors to them just like they want to be to us. So I think that's all worked out. The other thing I believe is the radio, and that was last year. That was also in the budget last year. The 5-city radio project that turned into a debacle because of, again, COVID mostly. We haven't started building it yet. We did not get the grant, but that doesn't surprise me. The AirPack grant that I got this year that the fire department got, here we didn't get it. And I was like, what in the world did we do wrong? Our application is perfect. How do we not? I called there and talked to a lady that was actually willing to talk to me. I actually just sent her flowers. And she told me we didn't check a box. And it threw our application out, one box on a grant application. So we checked the box and we sent the exact same application in and we got it the next year. So with the radio grant, I thought for sure the radio grant was a dead ringer that we would get the radio grant. It's a regionalization effort. And from what I'm told, and I called the same lady again, who she works in that department, and she basically told me, she said, you would have been approved. You were just 20 on the list. She's making that number up, and there was only enough to fund the first 15. So throw it in again. The good news with that is that we had hired a grant writer at 5 cities to write that grant. And the deal with her was, with our contract, if we didn't get it the first time, she has to rewrite it and resubmit it again. So it's kind of, yeah, it'd be silly for us not to put that grant back in. It was in the paper the other day and we didn't get it. It was a little shocking, but I do think we'll get it.
So the increase, the $40,000 increase in the budget for 21 versus 20, that's just the anticipated increase in the cost of the program because of inflation and all those other things, or is that something else?
Do you want to address that or you want me to?
Go ahead.
You might want to say. Well, there is a price increase coming there's 2 parts to this. There was the grant to actually buy radios. And then there was the part that we were funding among the 5 cities to actually build the system that those radios operate off of. They don't really depend on one another, but they coincide, I guess you could say. So anyway, building up of the system means putting a repeater site in Avon Lake on their water tower. It means putting another one in Avon on Mills Road on their water tower. And what I call the brain, the computer that operates this whole digital system, would be in Avon Lake. The price of that system, we knew was going to come into a price increase at the first of the year. It's going to cost all the cities however much more. So that's where the price increase came, but I believe it was only $20,000. I don't believe it was 40.
Look, this whole thing is in a little bit of flux. There's 5 cities that still need to have conversations about moving forward. And then we are also looking at our plan B, which it's noted on here. There's a Marks radio system that is something that we're taking a look at, and I'm gonna have some conversations about in case this other system doesn't work. There's other things at play in the background that we're hearing about, so you know, I don't know how all this is gonna play out, but we definitely want the money set aside for whichever direction that we're going to move it, because no matter what, we need a new radio system. And with either system, however it works out, we can put both, all of police, fire, and service on those systems if we want to in the future. So leaving the money there is going to be, you know, it'll be used one way or another. But just right now, we're trying to figure out which is the best way to proceed.
Good explanation, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'm over my time, so I can't take any more questions. Now, anybody got any questions?
Does, the amount that's set aside for that, will that include if one of the cities do get out of the 5 city, down to 4 cities?
No, it will not. One of the cities had talked about pulling out of it. Now my understanding is they're back in it. Maybe, in my opinion, they'd be doing themselves a disservice to get out of it because it's a big deal to put the 5 of us together. You all realize we use all 5 of them, all 4 of the other cities. We're back and forth all the time. That's how we operate. So it'd be more or less like half of the Cleveland Fire Department not being able to talk to half of the other half of the Cleveland Fire. It doesn't make any sense. And so I believe everyone will be in the end, depending on what we do.
Go ahead.
Chief, presently, do you still have that dead zone over by Jaycox there?
Dead zone, right, Jake?
Dead zone.
Dead zone. Oh, our dead zone.
Yes, your dead zone.
You know, here's the thing, I have multiple dead zones now, which I never had. My UHF system used to be fantastic. I don't know what's causing the interference. That section over there, I'm not so sure how bad that is right now, and it changes, and I don't understand why it changes either. My biggest problem right now is over on the Ohio Turnpike that way. Like, I completely lose reception over on the Ohio Turnpike. But we have had problems there, and we've had problems further down or further east on Center Ridge, and I don't know why, I don't understand why. But I used to hear the guys talking on the radio at the hospital when they call in service from St. John's. It used to sound like I was talking to them on a cell phone. Now it's garbled, and I have a hard time even understanding them. Nothing's changed from what we're doing. It's just, you know, between the narrow banding and the way they're changing how the frequencies work, it's affecting us. And you gotta remember, we're on analog. I don't know if you remember when you had an analog TV and they kept telling you, you gotta go digital, you gotta get a digital antenna, or go to cable. Well, that was with your TV way back then. Our radios are still analog and there's digital systems out there. That's what we should be on right now, is a digital system. So that's what we're trying to get to.
Maybe Chief, if you pulled a string tighter between the 2 cams.
You know, the example was in the paper, in the Chronicle this week, was that gas main break that we had here. That was a big gas main break that we had on Center Ridge. We were lucky with that. I think we've been really fortunate because the contractor's done a good job on Center Ridge. We haven't had a lot of them. We haven't had the number I thought we were gonna have. But that one was a pretty bad one, and we were evacuating homes on the south or the north side. And we had a command post over on the south side, and we couldn't talk to him. We could see him, and we're calling him, and he's not getting us for whatever reason.
That's a safety issue.
For sure.
Huge safety.
Had a quick question. This came up yesterday in just conversation when the building department was making their presentation, but you indicated earlier that you, in regards to the training, you have 5 trained in business inspections.
We have more than that. I have 5 that I need to train right now.
Okay.
I need more than that.
Do you have enough inspectors? And are we having enough time to inspect all the businesses that need to be inspected on an annual basis? And if not, how do we get there?
It's kind of a double-edged question. So anyway, let me try to answer it the best I can. The guys on shift, the officers that do fire inspections, yes, I could use them to do fire inspections, and I've tried to do that in the past. I decided so many that's, each shift, whatever. The trouble with them is we send them out on a fire inspection and get halfway through with it and they're running on a call. I can't take them out of service to do the fire inspection.
Correct.
Mike is overwhelmed. You wouldn't believe, we're finding people living places they shouldn't be living. We're finding all kinds of crazy stuff going on. We've had the new construction. Hopefully we're gonna have a lot more new construction business-wise. It's gonna make us even busier. But we could use help there. I do have one lieutenant that he's on shift though, and Mike only gets him this much every third day. And tries to help him do some of the paperwork. But there's a lot more to that job. The job that he does is he takes care of all the public education. He takes care of all the building inspections that we're trying to get done yearly. We're not getting them all done yearly. Like today, he'll spend the entire day after he leaves here at Rydell just witnessing a fire protection test on our fire alarm system. We could use someone for sure, and I've said that before. We'd like to explore who that person should be or in what capacity that person should be. But I knew this was not the year to start trying to push that. I mean, we get by, we're just getting by. We'll keep trying to get by. We're not doing the best job we could, but we're getting by and we're doing okay.
Well, I would be, again, this year may not be the best year, but I would certainly welcome any information that you would have so that we can keep it on our radar moving forward to help you. And my assumption would be, unless I hear something different from you, that those instances where we get calls or notices of potential violations, you are going out to those and making sure that.
Oh,
those
yes.
are checked.
Yeah, oh yeah, we take care of those. Food trucks are our biggest rodeo, like herding cats. But other than that, it's been okay. The mayor talked about, and we started doing this before COVID hit. We were starting to look at the other cities, how they're doing. We're trying to figure out what's going to be the most efficient way, most effective way, and the best fit for us to try bringing that person in before we start asking for somebody to fill that role.
Thank you.
Okay.
Chief, do you recover any money from inspections,
We do not.
for fees or anything?
We do not. That's been talked about in the past. I actually, one of the ones I would really like to go after doing inspections on is the food trucks. Even with our efforts that we've done so far, we can't keep track of the food trucks. They're coming in and out of here like, in the night. You don't know what's going on with them. They're not applying for permits, the whole bit. And because of overtime, we're not gonna go chase them down on the weekends and paying somebody to chase them down. We can't do that. So what we wanna do is we wanna start charging them a yearly fee, say $100, have them come to our station, we inspect them, we put a sticker on them for the year. Of course, we would figure out a way, so if they're here more than 2 days or something, possibly, like for a festival, we don't go hitting them for that. We'll just do it at the time of the festival. We're trying to figure that all out right now. So that's one avenue. The businesses themselves, I've always been afraid of that. I don't know if other cities do it around us, but I've always been afraid of hitting businesses for a fee to do a fire inspection.
I work all over the state, and it's very different in every community you work in. It's almost like, what is your thought process about it, depending where you're working at? A lot of times, the most fair is re-inspection fees. So if you didn't comply, then you should have known better that you're gonna have a re-inspection fee if you don't comply with the original one or whatever. When you go out originally to look at sprinkler or fire alarm from a new build, do you recover any fees from the building department in the application process, your review process of those drawings? See, that is another thing where there's an opportunity, because that's pretty common, where the fire department's gonna get reimbursed for their time to look at drawings, decide they're gonna approve it, go out for the inspection for the initial sprinkler fire alarm.
And I'm not opposed to that, because you're absolutely right. It takes up a ton of his time.
Sure. Which would be helpful to help if you were to try to
Bring something
expand that
else.
or help him.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Any questions?
Chief, I just want to thank you, your assistant chiefs, all the staff and team that you have. You guys do a great job with tools that you're given year in and year out. I can't tell you how many compliments that I hear in just general conversation of residents of all that you folks do. And there's a lot of things that you do that we don't know about. And so just want to thank you for it.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I'll spread that word back, because it's not me, it's the guys, even with this COVID thing, the way they've addressed it this year has been pretty remarkable. They've been pretty good with cleaning. I mean, they're even stepping in a bath, to wash their shoes when they come back in the building. I mean, they've been meticulous.
And it's awesome to not have to have the conversation of having to live in a dilapidated building.
Oh, my God.
And I've heard for 16 prior years. It's great not to have that conversation.
I don't know how the heck we were functioning out of there. Now, I look back now and I'm like, how are we doing this?
Although you no longer have the indoor waterfall feature in your office, which is disappointing, but.
My secretary's got one though that sits there and trickles all day. So,
Okay, you can go in there then.
yeah, you're right, I missed that. All right, well, thank you. Thanks so much.
Again, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you again.
All of this.
These new builds and new installs.
Well, it's pretty common practice too, like after they check $100 in a section. Doesn't matter the size of it. It's just, you gotta really put it in your job. Like I got the fire department here, then some cities will charge you. Because you
I like
review,
those initial ones.
do you review plans, do you review their plans and then send it back to the building department here?
Yes, but here's the problem that we run into is they don't tell us when they come into town. We're having a problem with, all of a sudden I'll say business, I'll be like, where did your business come from?
Let's turn them on.
They're just popping into these buildings, they're getting.
Oh, they're not pulling permits from the building department either, so you don't know
No,
that.
they're just, you know, like a phone, there's a phone, cellular phone company there one day, and the next day it's going on, there's a nails place there, and it's like, where'd that come from?
The only thing you're gonna do with that is just, Mike's gonna catch it when he's doing his rounds, like, oh, new business, they're gonna stop in, your exit signs to be worked on, they're not working, whatever, stop, get rid of your extension cords, you know, the usual.
We should be maybe not finding them, but doing something to them. We need to set a standard there, and I don't mean fear, I mean respect for you. When you're moving into town, you need to come to the building department and let us know that you're moving into town.
Having an initial,
To do something to the property owner. Because in essence, they're the ones that need to make sure that.
You're exactly right. That's.
you know, having an initial inspection, when you take something over, that's our opportunity for you to say, okay, this exit line's from 1965 and it doesn't work anymore, because we see that all the time, where, you know, you have something that's not even functional at all, exit lighting.
Gentlemen, we'll at this time take a 10-minute recess,
Awesome.
and you can carry on the conversation.
No, I'm gonna,
might as well stay there. All right, meeting is back in session, but at this point, we will be going into executive session to discuss personnel issues.
Is there a motion?
Is there, I move that we go into executive?
Second.
All those in favor, say yay.
Roll call
Yay.
vote?
Anybody opposed?
Roll call vote?
Roll call?
Yep.
Okay. And that would be just with the committee, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Councilman Booth,
Yay.
Councilman Valesky. I make it unanimous.
Had to say yay, because that's what you asked.
Okay, we're live.
Okay. We're back in session at this point, but we are now going to take a 15-minute recess. So moved.
I just want to make sure, there's one thing we have. For a while.
Camera's following.
Doesn't it move on its own?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, we are back in session. And I guess the next topic of conversation will be capital.
Yes. So if we could move, go to the binders to police, we'll just go through the binder for each department that has either capital equipment or capital projects.
So we're going to have first.
Police. So the police department doesn't have any capital projects, but they are requesting 5 additional cruisers.
We've been on this schedule for a number of years.
Yes.
They provide us with the mileage and, of their vehicles. These are replacements. Or no, or will we keep the 5 of these are replacements, correct?
It's replacing 5 other vehicles.
Correct. And what do we do with the other 5? We put them on the.
Go to use.
Or someone with the auction bill.
Right. We no longer, in the years past, sometimes another department has picked it up because they could use it, but right now we're selling them.
Yeah.
Okay, the fire department, on the capital project list, they have the 5 city or communication replacement of radio system or some variation of that. In 2021, they've asked for 180,000.
Okay with that.
My only concern is if, what I've said a couple of times, is if one city backs out, to have enough money to, because I think the system's great and it's much needed. But if there's money to be had to cover in case one system or one side, one city fails out.
Yeah. I get you.
That's a concern, for sure. Okay, we'll leave that as a placeholder.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I said, then we'll leave the 180 as a placeholder. The equipment replacement schedule for fire,
Yes, the additional cost.
that's in capital project. Let's move on to engineering. Engineering, within engineering is the long list of capital projects. As you all know, some of these are budgeted in various places, with the majority being, the street work anyway, being in street levy. So in total, were there any of these projects that you had any areas of concern or weren't comfortable with appropriating?
Just for everyone's knowledge, I told a couple people after the meeting yesterday afternoon, I did personally contact all those department heads who presented before I was here, spoke with them personally, went over the questions that I had, and also watched the videos, so I am caught up on what they went over when I was here.
Thank you.
I think from what we reviewed, these projects all make sense. They are needs, not wants. And as we go through the years, the mayor mentioned, we'll be making smart decisions, watching the economy and seeing what happens with our revenues. So from what I see before me, I think it looks fitting.
It's also encouraging to see that the Cypress Avenue project will be hopefully coming out of the TIF area.
Let me point out, someone last week we read a letter from one of our residents about concerns about street funds, and there's actually more money appropriated in full concrete this year than next year there was than this year. So
Yes, I'll comment on that. In my conversation with John Montgomery, we talked about the overall budget for street repairs and replacement, which not only includes asphalt, full concrete depth, car replacement, the other materials that they're using, you know, is probably around 1.6, 1.7, I'm guessing, somewhere in that range, total altogether. But we did have the conversation about per the street estimates that we got in the program that we paid for last year, that we still don't have the final version of. But I heard that the mayor mentioned the other day, somewhere between 3 to 4 million per year is what it would cost to, you know, make sure that we got on some sort of rotating system so that every so many years, whether that be 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, 20 years, that our streets would be in a position to be repaired. So understanding that we're talking about, you know, less than $2 million this year, again, which is more overall than what we had in previous, that's still short of our mark. So what you're in essence doing is you're putting that shortness at the end of the total, so that now we no longer need, let's say, 3 million a year, but we need 3.1 million a year over 15 years. And then if you continue to do that over time, that number only increases. And that's to, again, provide some sort of long-term maintenance solution, which is something I believe the city needs to come up with at some point. We talked about that. You know, we just reviewed our street levy, and we're talking about increased revenues in order to maintain it. And so I think at some point, this council needs to consider an increase in the street levy, because now that we can show residents that this is the amount of money we need on an annual basis to make the improvement, so that over time, we're not replacing streets 4 and 5 years beyond their life after that, which has some safety issues to go along with it, that this makes sense. The other thing that Mr. Montgomery and I talked about is that, you know, he's in agreement that if we would need, you know, there's only so much that his group of employees can do. So you can throw all the money you want at it, but at the end of the day, they can only do so much, because especially on the street repairs and replacement, he's taking them off of water duty, sewer duty, you know, maintenance, somewhere else. There's actually 5 departments in one that goes along with this. So when that's being done, other things aren't. So he is in agreement that if need be, there certainly would be the opportunity for a third party to come in and do some of that for us. Understanding that that would likely cost more than if we did it ourselves, but believes that we can get still a good contract price through bidding to have that done at some point in time. Not suggesting this year, but I think it's something that we have to consider, because at the end of the day, it's never going to be cheaper than it is today. Whatever you put off now is likely going to cost more next year, and the year after, and the year after. So I make these comments as I do every year, because I think we can't take our vision off the issue of our street repair, street replacement, our infrastructure on that. Understanding we have a lot to do. But now that we know what that number is, and for years we didn't know what that number was. That's why we got the study to help us figure that out. But now that we know an approximate number, I think it's our duty to use that number or some form of it to look forward and say, okay, at what point are we going to address this? Because if we continue to not address it, it's only going to get worse. So that's my comment on.
Based on that comment,
I'm
might I
sorry.
bring up, based on that comment and what you just said, you have this opportunity as a city council right now to get $10 more in motor vehicles through the registration. It was given to us by the legislature, and it really certainly is going to give us an opportunity to replace more concrete streets and give us additional money to do the roundabouts. If we don't take that responsibility and try to do that, and go back to the taxpayers, again, I'm not sure how that would work, but this is instantaneous money that is in your control. I know it's tough because I'm not an elected official, I might be defunded now, so you never know. But really, seriously, the legislature and I was really pushing the Mannings and pushing the legislative guys and women that I know to give us that opportunity to raise that fee so that we could get additional monies through the registration of those cars and trucks. And that in itself, I think, Kevin, you had a number let's say it's just 13,000, there's 14,000 houses times 2 is 28,000 cars. Yeah, it's over $300,000 a year in registration fees. That ought to be at least considered to help us in this fund. It can't be used anyplace else. It has to be used in this fund.
No, I appreciate that, and I'm glad that we were able to get the legislator to offer that opportunity. I'm hesitant to do that now for a number of reasons. One, COVID. Two, the unemployment, even though it's come down. 3, I would rather give the residents the opportunity to vote on an increased levy amount before I would go that route. We had a lot of backlash when council approved the additional monies. I think it was $5 to fund the finishing of Center Ridge Road. So I would rather, at this point in time, put it in the residents' hands. But what I also wanted to do was at least let council as whole understand the long-term nature of this. Previous councils didn't have this information afforded to them, so we did what we could do or what we thought we could budget. But again, now that we understand what that number might be, at some point we need to address it. Jeff, that may very well come into play as part of what we could do to address it, but I'd rather, at least at this point, my own personal self, consider or look at the opportunities or challenges, which there certainly would be, of considering an increase in that street fund, because that street fund's been the same money for how many years? And with the additional number of street miles that we have, and now understanding the cost of what it's going to take to improve those in hand, I think that would be a better opportunity for the residents to understand that. But thank you. And I yield my time.
So based on that conversation, Dennis, if the people, let's say have the opportunity to vote in May, which they won't because we've got to get it on the ballot.
Correct.
And they turn that down. Where do we go then? I think we're elected as responsible parties that we need to take, we're elected as leaders and to solve problems. It's not to go back to them. They elect us to make decisions. I'm not elected, I was. And those decisions are being made. And my appeal to all of us is that if we're in this position and we can help fix the streets, and with all due respect, Dennis, I get your position, I understand that. We need to take on our responsibility and offer that and get the streets fixed. Because I'm not sure that they're gonna add, they gripe a lot, but I'm not sure they wanna add to that burden.
I agree. And
I yield my time.
And that's a discussion, Mr. Chairman. Right now, to me, $300,000 a year doesn't solve the problem. And so I think, again, understanding, communicating what the problem is, I think is our first step. And so, no, I agree with you. That's where I stand at this point.
Okay, that's fair.
And I yield my time.
I would agree with Councilman Bruce. I just think as leaders, we need to look at the whole picture and look at where people are at financially. Yeah, $10 might not seem like a lot, but you're talking $20 for a 2-car household during a time when people might be out of a job. This might be a difficult time to do that, where you are correct, it might not pass a levy, but then I might be more apt to vote for an increase after trying with the levy and then seeing where the economy's at, seeing where people are at, and going from it at that point. I just think right now, as minimal as it sounds, sitting here in council chambers, that it might be a bigger deal to the residents.
I'm gonna add this. I really agree with Mr. Armbruster. You go out for a levy and it fails, and then we go and pass a $10 increase on registration fees. What's going to happen is the same thing that happened to the two recent commissioners who lost their jobs, and that's one of the major reasons is they ignored the citizens' vote. And I'm not sure we would be willing to, after a levy passes or is defeated, that we would be all that willing to pass that $10 increase. So that's something to consider. I'm not saying one way or the other which way I support, I'm just pointing out the situation.
Just, and I have one more comment. When I was mayor many, many years ago, we had an income tax increase on the ballot. And I preached from this, as the mayor, I preached and preached and preached. I said, look, I'm giving you all an opportunity, all the residents, to raise your income tax. I understand that. We have to have this money. I'm gonna take it, meaning city council is gonna consider taking it on the inside. You're gonna get the money one way or another. We were honest and upfront on the process. They turned down the income tax, we took the money on the inside. Now, were they happy? At least they knew going into it what was going on.
No, I agree, Mr. Chairman. There's many opportunities, there are many alternatives of how you can approach it. Again, it's just right now due to the current economic situation and such. And again, now knowing what that potential dollar amount is on an annual basis, I would just rather consider. Again, I don't know at what point that needs to be done. It has to be appropriate. We have to consider all the other entities that will have levies and such and prioritize it. But again, I just didn't mean this conversation go on this long. My point was.
I'm sorry.
That I just.
kinda.
I'm glad it's this long. My point in all of this was I wanted to just make sure everyone on council understood that I thought one of the reasons we got the study done was so that we could understand that number and then manage to it. And now is the point that we have to manage to it in some degree. And so I want to plant that seed so that we don't forget it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no more time to yield.
I'm out of time.
All right. So capital projects, we're comfortable with the projects slated for 2021?
I am,
Yes, I believe so.
as presented in this sheet. Just one moment.
Yes. Let's flip to Parks and Recreation. Parks and Recreation Department has capital projects of $440,000. The Finance Committee comfortable with the projects budgeted for this year, for 2021?
Of which, just a note, the $210,000 for Shady Drive batting cage and new restrooms already been paid.
That is correct. That is a carry forward from 2020.
Moving on.
The Parks and Rec Department has also requested some equipment, an additional lease for the Ford F-350, the two EXMARK Laser Z 96-inch mower decks, a field groomer, and 13 spinning bikes.
My comment would be that since the lower decks are coming out of the Park and Rec Improvement Fund, as well as the groomer, I don't have an issue with that. Kevin was comfortable when asked if he was comfortable with taking that money out of that fund. And so it's not coming out of the general fund. I would acquiesce to his experience. Personally.
My only comment would be, well, of course, with the spinning bike, let's make sure we're in a place where they can actually be used before we purchase them. It's common sense.
I agree. I agree.
Comfortable? And in the same department, the cemetery fund, the change to other professional services to contract out the work of the cemeteries.
Yes, the understanding we're saving labor by doing that.
So we would reduce the 2 part-timers and move forward with the contract.
Yes.
The 2 part-timers that are assigned to the cemetery.
That is correct. The streets department. Their equipment schedule. They have requested some additional leases in 2021. They're asking for a new paver, a new crew cab pickup with plow, a single axle dump truck with plow. Let's do the leases first. Is the finance committee comfortable with that? Okay.
It's kind of hard to define equipment after a conversation previously.
And then.
You're talking about the operating leases, correct?
Yes. Under the equipment to be purchased, the department is requesting 2 one-ton dump trucks with plow, 1 crew cab pickup with plow, catwalk for cleaning trucks, the replacement of the epoxy floor at the service garage, a crack sealer, a battery mower, trailer, offset ditch flail mower, a sewer camera with accessories, a transit van, 6 hydrant backflow devices, a 40-inch flail mower, and a Fecon rake and ripper tube for the SK-140 under purchased equipment.
Just to note that to my records, the 2 one-ton trucks with plow and the crew cab pickup with plow and the catwalk for cleaning trucks, it's my understanding they were appropriated in 2020, but were not purchased for them.
That is correct.
That tells me that that was a need, one of their top priorities in 2020, and so I would certainly make sure that those were done as soon as it would be appropriate.
My only concern, once again, was putting money into the epoxy flooring of the garage, knowing that we might be having some changes in the near future.
Well, whether we do or we don't, we would look to repurpose that building if we move them out of there.
Did he mention, I don't remember, like how long that epoxy flooring lasts, like what's the lifetime or something like that?
I don't believe he said.
Okay.
The epoxy floor actually is gonna smooth the concrete out, and get us more life out of it, so it's gonna actually give it a coating over the top. What's happening now is the salt's eating into the concrete. More and more concrete is the temperature of the ground goes, and then it heats up and it keeps popping out at us. I don't know if the epoxy is gonna stop that. I would assume it would. Cliff, maybe you could help me out. You moved into an old building out there that probably had the same problem, didn't you?
Well, with epoxy floor, it's gonna seal your floor, which will help with cleaning and maintenance of all their vehicles that are being maintained in there. And as far as protecting the concrete, it'll help prevent moisture and salt from penetrating it. Therefore, I would So I'm not a flooring expert, but I've worked with it before where, you know, you, for longevity reasons, you do that. And if the building can be repurposed, like I said, I'm not an expert, but, you know, I would think, to answer your question, maybe 15 years, you know, maybe it depends on traffic and what, you know, how we're treating it, but, you know, maybe something like in that area.
And Cliff, I would assume that it fills up all the pock marks too, all the potholes.
If you put it on thick enough, yes, you just gotta make sure that you would, make sure that being done that way, but yes.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of the, after the conversation of the sewer cameras, accessories, he talked about how outdated and how much trouble they had keeping the thing serviceable because it's getting older. And I also like the fact that he can transition pieces off of the new camera if need be, and have a backup. With the water issues the city's suffered for many years, I think it's important we have that tool so we can continue to work on our flooding issues. So I'm a big supporter of that.
To add what you're saying, 25% of replacement cost was set last year to some repairs on the old one, so.
Well, the Batman wing mower, I can only tell you, that's the one that does all of Route 10 and all that. We tried to get out of that work with the state. I still think that that's worth our keeping together, trying to get out of it. But without that Batwing mower, and we don't get up there, the complaints that we get, we just absolutely need that piece of equipment because the old one is actually worn out.
I also like the catwalk. Sounds like it's a safety issue. It's pretty slippery. They're trying to maintain those vehicles and try and get them in and get them out as fast as possible, get them back on the road to handle snow storms and whatever else. So I think when it comes to safety, that's got to be one of the most important things we consider. So I support that as well.
And let's move forward to French Creek.
Just remember here, every time you turn around, it's paid, this is paid by 3 communities when they do French Creek. And we're in charge of the race, guys, and days, which is a good thing.
All right.
Put it this way, after reading the paper in Lorraine, I wouldn't be surprised if the citizens start lobbying for that one plant to close and switch over to French Creek.
Rest assured, we're gonna still be in charge. We're not gonna let them be in charge. They'll take us down the toilet.
I understand.
All
I don't know,
right.
is that an appropriate metaphor there?
Yes.
All right. French Creek on their equipment replacement schedule. They've requested in 2021 a new Ford F-150 quad cab, a single axle dump truck, a Cat front end loader, Ferris tanks, a vac truck, and an additional RAS pump.
And again, that vac truck is just being transferred over from,
That is correct.
Well, we're paying $80,000 for it.
okay,
They will purchase it from that department.
I'm okay with these items.
Capital projects. And some of these are straightforward also. So the department will continue with the influent pump project, the influent screen replacement, the blower tank and digester upgrade. My apologies, that's 2022. The non-potable water line upgrade. Centrifuge transformer, again, wrong line, my apologies. The interceptor model for basin design, and the super head.
Everybody okay?
Okay. Okay, so with, that is, I believe, all of the equipment requests and capital projects requests. I wanted to note that there will be a small change in the fire department. We when I say small, somewhere around $8,000 we need to reallocate, and I will get that information to you this week. With exception to that, is there anything else within the operating lines that you have questions or concerns?
At some point, are we going, or I'm sure we will, at what point will we get updated on the CARES Act funding? And how we're working with that and how that may or may not impact these funds?
I need to do a calculation to figure out, I don't know what I can do.
Yeah.
I need to do a calculation. We have determined what path we are gonna take, but I do need to do the calculation to figure out what those dollars mean to each fund. So once that's complete, then we can have a discussion.
Okay, and then we can have a discussion on what direction we're supposedly taking,
That's correct.
so that we can have that discussion for consideration.
Yes.
Thank you.
So everybody's good with the other operating lines here. In regard to the staffing that was discussed in executive session, we're comfortable with what we discussed specifically. Okay. And that concludes it.
We should anticipate the budget coming before council when,
Next meeting.
The first meeting in December.
and it needs to be passed by the end of the year.
It does.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll have at least 2 meetings then that we can have it for public comment.
That is correct.
Thank you.
At this point, I will entertain a motion from the committee. All right, I'd like the motion to send the budget to full council with the changes that are being noted and to be supplied within the next week.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, I guess we need to take a roll call, is that correct?
You actually did need a motion
Okay.
for this draft legislation.
Okay.
You could withdraw the motion, you don't need it.
Don't need it?
You don't need it.
I will pronounce this meeting then. We'll withdraw the motion.
Bring it on 1 second.
And at this point, I will close the meeting. Adjourned.
Good job, April.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Much pain in the last year.